All right, DJ Screw in Heaven 2. At the time, I needed a monumental, go-to large museum quality piece. This is a 60 by 60 inch piece. Not quite the tallest piece that I've finished, but you could say it's maybe the widest piece that I finished, and it's also the first piece that I worked on that was a black canvas. So I pretty much worked in total reverse from what I'm normally used to working with a white canvas, because on the white canvas I have to do quite a bit of what I call speedballing, which is using a watered down black paint and a fine detail brush to like outline everything. And with the black canvas, that outline is pretty much already there. So you need to paint the interior of the forms of whether it's people or objects. So basically on that black canvas, I was just going, straight to the color and using like the negative space to outline the figures, and then having to initially come back at the end and do my own old school speedball and outline. So this piece was inspired by its predecessor, which was just DJ Screw in Heaven, and I had DJ Screw in his wood room at his house off of 45 and Alvin Exit, and it only depicted, him and some members of Screwed Up Click, just vibing in the studio and creating a tape while he's mixing, and they were, freestyling, having a good time, like you would hear in the background on his tapes. You could envision what was going on when listening to the tapes, because you could, hear people in the background, just conversating or like, sending shout outs or talking about what they're doing or how many drugs they got in there or what shoes they got on or what they're wearing. And so I depicted that in the first one, but I wanted to ultimately get more members of the Screwed Up Click in on this one. Wanted to show the effect of the deaths prior to Screw passing away of members in the clique, how it affected, how it affected the other Screwed Up Click members. And so I kind of divided up the piece with coffins and three of some of the most well-known members laying in those coffins, but at the top, most of the prominent figures in the Screwed Up Click deceased in heaven, and some could possibly be in heaven, some could possibly not be, due to whatever you believe about, suicide and things of that nature. But they're initially I was going to call this piece Crumbs to Bricks to imply Screw's hustle from from start to finish, and I wanted to kind of show that progression from like how his car and his house changed from like a house in the hood, one-story house in the hood, to a bigger house or closer to a mansion-sized house in Missouri City, or from his Impala being just plain Jane factory black to him having it painted screw blue. So his I implied that progression with him mixing on the turntables, and he kind of like made something out of nothing by, mixing on these turntables. And so that's why I had the cars placed on top of the turntables and the houses, up under his wings, or under his arms, to show what he made happen with his hands. They would always say he had $1 million hands, like his hands were worth, $1 million on his tapes. His friends would say that. So I wanted to play off of that, and how he made all of this creation with his hands. I also wanted to show that his ghost was rising from his body when he died in the studio, and it going up to heaven, from his chest, and from him having a heart attack. I showed his heart in a clock, which is the same clock that I've been using in most of my screw paintings, which is a clock that was given to me by my dad. That was from the Astrodome. It was like a Astrodome and Astros commemorative clock that they gave him, and it had Lee at the 12 midnight position. So I've been using that clock in a lot of my screw paintings, because Screw's albums and his album covers would always either show a skull, like skull and bones, and would always show screws going through the skull, and it would show a clock, because he was known to like slow down time, and he moved on a time rate of his own. He moved however slow he wanted to move, and he moved at his own pace. And he had like the whole culture in Houston kind of slowed down, the mentality, slowed down, everybody taking their time, kind of driving slower, and moving slower, and listening to their music slower, and that kind of spread like wildfire, and across the music scene. And after a while, it just slowed down everything, and slowed all the beats down. The tempo of how mainstream music started presenting their art, was a lot slowed down because of this man. So I just, want to keep implying that came from Houston or Texas, and keep making these paintings. But I just know that was where I gained a lot of my popularity from my work. So I know I should always have a DJ screw painting, in the making, and keep telling a story, because I'm still learning more things from friends of his and guys that were really there, and as well as regurgitating things that I remember from going to his house and buying his tapes, and having small talk with him, and still running into these guys here and there, and they have small details that I can always keep adding to these paintings, and to make them even more authentic, and to strike a nerve with whoever's viewing them, that actually remembers these things. So it's an acquired taste, as far as like people that know exactly what I'm trying to convey in these screw paintings. But the people that know, they get real excited when they see somebody depicting them and telling those stories. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just all the screwed up clique members that have passed, and some guys that passed after making this painting are in there as well. So that's it. Mm-hmm.